Well, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee yesterday, quote, advanced legislation that would repeal the authorizations for the 1991 Gulf War and the 2003 invasion of Iraq, in a move that shows how far the two political parties have traveled on issues of war and the power to wage it, end quote. Now, Senator Ed Markey spoke about the issue. Here's what he said.
I was in Congress in 2002 when we debated the authorization for use of military force in Iraq. Of course, we know that the war ultimately was fought on a lie that President Bush and Dick Cheney, his entire administration, made, which was that there were nuclear weapons in Iraq. They knew there were not, that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We know that they lied, and the whole premise of the war was a big lie, that we were going in to remove nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction from that country. So it's time for that authorization to go, as Senator Kaine has said, and others. We are now in a completely different posture with the Iraq government. We're no longer at war with them. And again, that war was based upon a complete and total fabrication.
Yeah, well, why don't they include the 2001? How about we just get rid of all of the AUMFs? How about that?
Yeah, that's kind of my starting position as well. Obviously, what needs to be said here is, you know, I'm pleased to see what the Senate Foreign Relations Committee did, but as you point out, the big kahuna, the 2001 AUMF that everybody uses for everything, is still in place and untouched and likely to be and remain untouched. But one quick thing I did want to point out that I thought was interesting here was that if you looked at the vote breakdown from the committee yesterday, you saw all Democrats vote to repeal these with the assistance of 3 Republicans, Rand Paul, Rob Portman, and Todd Young. Now, Rand Paul, probably unsurprising, vote here. His whole platform has been on, you know, we should repeal AUMFs and also we should vote on more wars. But I think it's really striking to point to Rob Portman and Todd Young, who, you know, are relatively normie Republicans. They're pretty like mainstream down the line, you know, have not really taken a stand on this issue, come out and support this withdrawal. And there's a lot of people on the right who don't support this, by the way. They think that, you know, the president should have a lot of power to go to war when he wants, to pick, you know, which authorization he wants to use. And they think this threatens the status of the 2001 AUMF, you know, which again is used for everything. So I do think it's significant here. I think they are responding to the fact that America has woken up to this issue. They're sick of, you know, all these conflicts just, you know, being engaged in without any discussion or consent or even votes by Congress.
Yeah, but again, you know, the fact is that the 2001 AUMF is the big one. That one has been used now, I think, 30-something times to engage in various countries around the world. I mean, in Africa and throughout the Middle East. Yeah. So this has been never ending. And I think it's really important for people to understand why AUMFs are such a problem, because I know that a lot of this stuff gets a bit wonky and over people's heads. But at the end of the day, an AUMF just allows the president to kind of unilaterally go and essentially wage war. We haven't actually declared war officially in this country since World War II. So every war since World War II has either been argued away because of a UN resolution. So they say, well, it was a UN resolution that allowed us to go into the Korean War. And they also used a UN resolution, I believe Bush did, the first Bush, for the original going into the Gulf. And then but an AUMF was used for Vietnam. I mean, think about that. One of our worst wars, an AUMF was used to get into that war. And then an AUMF to get into, of course, the current wars that we've been in the Middle East forever. And so we have to, the people, the American people need to be the ones to say, we are willing to send our children to war. Yeah. So that needs to be us. It cannot be these political leaders that are just taking big money from the military-industrial complex and from other foreign lobbies, and then saying, well, we're going to go ahead and continue these never-ending, endless military engagements. We're not going to really call them a war or whatever they're going to call it in order to explain it away. But we, the American people, should have a say when we raise our arms against another country, when we take civilian lives that ultimately end up being taken during these engagements. And so all of these AUMFs need to be repealed. I mean, I applaud them for the 2 that they want to get rid of, but these are not the 2 that matter right now. Right now, pretty much every engagement's been done under the 2001 AUMF, and that one needs to go. And then we need to, as the American people, say, we're not going to really allow these AUMFs anymore except in really extraordinary circumstances.
One thing, I think about the AUMFs that does serve a purpose, and it also happens with declarations of war, but it does put people on the record. And that, I think, is a really, really important element that I think a lot of people have been pushing for more of them, right? The problem with the 2001 AUMF is it's so broad, right? It's so vaguely written. It's like, we should just go after ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Well, they're everywhere, right? So it basically authorizes entry to, all kinds of conflicts and all kinds of countries. And I think you're saying, you see people who say, look, we do want the president to have the ability to respond quickly. In those cases, if he does need an AUMF, Congress should vote on it. Because to your point, the times that the 30-some times that 2001 AUMF has been utilized, no congressional vote has taken place. And that's what made the original 2001 AUMF so powerful, is that it put people on the record, and then they are forced to defend that. They are forced to own up to that. And it's a really difficult vote for these members, because then you have to think about it. You have to think about it. Do I want to authorize a conflict in which we are sending American citizens, American soldiers will die, countless civilians in those countries may die as well? That has meaning, and it creates a record. And that is the accountability of self-government. And in these cases, it's really, really missing. And so I do think, I am completely supportive of efforts to, even if you want to repeal or say rewrite, if you think the president needs more power to go out and address, some of these issues where they reside, then fine, rewrite it. Rewrite it for the conflict that you're trying. Rewrite it for the conflict you're trying to address. Correct. That's the critical thing.
And that's why Congress is so ineffective, right? I mean, they're the worst branch of government. They don't ever get anything done. And it's because they never want to put their name on the record. They never want to say, okay, yeah, I did that, because then they have to be held accountable to their constituents, and they don't want to be. They just want to keep playing politics in the media and on social media. And really what does need to happen is, if you do think that there is a purpose for an AUMF, then fine. The ones that are in existence absolutely need to be repealed. We're talking 20 years. I mean, the one from 1991, like, come on, right? That's a long time ago. And I actually think there's still one. I do think that there is still one, maybe even from the 60s or the 70s, that's still active. I mean, it's there, but it's kind of, purposeless. I think it was for aggressions against the USSR potentially, or Russia or something. But they need to get rid of all of them. And then Congress needs to, if they feel like it, if they say, okay, this is something we need, they need to rewrite it, stick their name on it. But are we going to get that? This is a way for the war hawks to hide.
Oh, yeah.
And they do. Just hide behind it. And they do. And the war hawks are on both sides of the aisle. We're seeing this coming from both sides. They want maybe different reasons why they justify why they want certain aggressions, but they want it. And we have to remember the military-industrial complex invests on both sides nearly equally. So
yeah, well, and that's the unsaid part of this too, is that when you have an unlimited AUMF like this, of course these military contracts get put out for decades, right? 10-year contracts with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, can't touch that. That's a sacred cow. So these get extended forever and ever. But maybe Congress will do something, although probably not.
Don't hold your breath.
Well, on that happy note, Kim, it's been so great hosting with you. So tomorrow on Rising, we have another great show. We're joined by Team Rising.
We also have journalist Jerusalem Demsas joining us to discuss the housing crisis, and you will not want to miss it. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everybody.